Brooklyn, New York, who had their children removed. She saw many inconsolable babies after being taken from their mothers.
I can't imagine what that feels like, first of all, for a mother, but also just for a little baby who has basically, never experienced the world, to be taken from the only comfortable place that they know. Their mother's arms, and there's very clear data that when you break an attachment like that, there are negative impacts.
After feeling like the system was not set up to help children or mothers of colour, Trivedi began to comb the academic literature, looking to see if there was evidence that children are harmed when, in an instant, they're taken
The
from
fucking
their
radio
mothers.
here is hilarious. This Radio Latino or whatever, like,
And toddlers can't talk through their feelings.
listen to the propaganda that they're spewing.
Worry or fear due to sudden separation from their parent. Young children might blame themselves. They may cry a lot or refuse to eat or be unable to sleep. It's trauma, Trivedi says.
But how do they explain to a child that your mom didn't do enough to protect you when your dad was beating her up and so you have to leave your mom too? I just don't understand how a child can
I don't understand how these people...
information in a way that's healthy. Toddlers throwing tantrums or, teenagers talking back. Again, these are children who've been removed from their parents, which is traumatic, and then expected to be like these perfect kids that really don't exist in any family, right? They're also held to this higher standard despite the trauma that they've been through.
Oh, pobrecitos.
Joseph was just 5 months old when he was taken from Leah Garcia and placed with a foster family.
Because Leah Garcia probably was a piece of shit.
In his life. Leah went from being with Joseph 24/7 to seeing him 3 times a week for an hour each time. And the foster mother had to be present at all the visits to watch Leah and her baby son.
It was hard watching somebody else have to watch me hold my son.
Because you don't sound like a very upstanding individual.
Her watching me. Another thing that blew my mind actually was that he wasn't eating with her.
Okay.
And she had mentioned that to me. He's not eating at all. And I told her, well, he was breastfed. And she's like, oh, it's just going to be a hard transition for him. And he wasn't sleeping. So he was having a hard time eating and sleeping when he was there.
I'm going to call bullshit.
But stopping breastfeeding turned out to be the least of the problems.
Okay.
A few months after Joseph was taken, when Leah texted the foster mother to confirm she was on her way to visit, she was given the news that Joseph was no longer in her care. In fact, he was in the hospital.
She just texted me saying, oh, I would never do anything to hurt Joseph, and, we all love him very much, and my head's just going out of control. Like, what happened to my son? Where's my son at? Like, why hasn't anybody called me? How come nobody contacted me? How come he was in the hospital and nobody called me while he was at the hospital so I could be there with him?
Oh, okay. It sounded like...
I didn't know what to do.
On work furlough?
I was freaking out.
Turns out, Joseph broke his arm.
I went to the hospital. I just see my son, laying there, screaming. And nobody has answers for me.
This is such bullshit.
Joseph, while he was in hospital, she had to demand it, she says. And her DCFS social worker didn't tell her much about how Joseph broke his arm.
Oh, fuck.
What bothers me with the system is that they don't have an answer for you for anything. They don't have an answer for you when you have a question, which I feel like if you have a question about your children, they should have an answer. They took your kids from you because they don't feel like you can do it.
They were probably right, and that's nothing against them. I mean, hell,
you're gonna freak out. You're going, how that happened.
a lot of children back in the 30s and 40s were adopted, because parents couldn't afford them.
You're not a stable person. You shouldn't have your kid. This is another thing we're gonna write down, which isn't right. It's not okay, because how are you supposed to react? Because you're in the system and you're a mom, and you were in an abusive relationship. They're gonna look at you a certain way and say, oh yeah, she's not stable.
You're not. The truth hurts, I get that.
After his brief hospital stay for the broken arm, DCFS placed Joseph in a new foster home. This new
Right, the first
family
foster
lived
mother
in
probably
the
fucking
far
broke his arm and
reaches
shit.
of
You little
County.
shit. Fucking,
So far, in fact, that many Angelinos might not even know Palmdale and Lancaster are part of LA.
Why did
It
it
would
just...
take Leah
it's
over
just
2
all
hours
LA.
on the bus, one way, just to get to Joseph's new placement home. She didn't have a car.
They're focused on LA.
She also took the bus
Even though
to
I'm in
work,
Arkansas.
a job she was expected to have to show DCFS that she could
This
support her
bitch sounds
children.
British from like the UK.
DCFS also required Leah to take parenting and domestic violence classes. In between all this, she had to find her way to visit her baby,
Oh my
who was
God.
now 55 miles away.
Oh dear.
There's times where I had to think, am I going to go to work today or am I going to see my son today?
Oh my
They want
God.
you to
Bitch,
have
shut
your
the fuck
classes
up.
done, and they want you to make time for your classes. They want you to have a job, a full-time job. They want to make sure that you're able to provide for your children when you come
Yes.
back. And they want you to see your children. And if you don't, that counts against you.
Life was very hard for Leah.
Oh
She
dear.
also wondered how well Joseph was being treated by his new foster mother.
And with the first visit,
All
I
that
had
bull.
with
Oh,
her
she sounds like
at
she's
the
a very
park,
pleasant individual, huh?
She had not one, not two, I think three children with her. 3 extra children.
3 extra.
Just 2 little boys and a little girl that were her other foster children, and they were running around there at the park, and I couldn't even have my visit because I have to be right in front of her. She has to be watching
What?
me.
The record shows Leah did have reason to be concerned. At a visit to the dentist in early 2020, over a year after he'd been removed from her, Joseph had cavities
Oh,
in
dear.
2 of his front teeth,
Oh my God.
his baby teeth. Joseph had no teeth when he was taken from Leah, and now, at 18 months old, his teeth were starting to rot.
What?
I wanted to see what the commute would have been like 3 times a week for Leah to visit her son. I also wanted to meet Joseph's foster mother to hear about her experience
did you do
raising
that?
Joseph. We're not using her name, as in this
Because
investigation,
there is no
we're
fucking
looking
name.
into the child welfare system as a whole. So here I am in Monrovia, a little city in LA County, where Leah Garcia lived at the time when Joseph was in foster care in Palmdale.
Oh my
So
God.
let's see, GPS says it's 55
Oh,
miles,
right?
and it'll take me an hour and 19 minutes.
Bitch, you're lying. Because
No
anybody know
traffic.
LA traffic is a motherfucker. That'll take you like 3 days.
The foster mother used to work as a sales associate prior to fostering Joseph and the other children. She was employed by the Home Depot, Cricket Wireless, and Vallarta supermarkets. I talked to
Viagra
one employer,
supermarkets.
the owner of an aged care home where Joseph's foster mother was a carer, and he said she was a very good carer. He had no complaints with her. Okay, and an hour and 23 minutes after I left Monrovia, I am pulling up here in Palmdale.
This bitch ain't even
So-
British.
I'm going to go in, and I'm going to knock on the door, and I'm going to see if the foster
The
mother wants to
fake
talk
British
to me.
fucking accent. This has got to be a joke. What the hell is it?
Joseph's second foster mother didn't want to talk. I've been covering child welfare for years now. I've met many, many parents who've had their children removed, and many of them have complaints about the foster parents. But
This
I
bitch
also
is
know
not
many
British.
foster
I'm
parents
sorry.
who are good,